Gosh, about 6 days ago, I was talking with Ray, the CEO of Allo, on the phone. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in Korea pretty soon. And he said, hey, so am I. And I said, well, we should meet. And then suddenly it kind of turned into let's do an event together. So we were able to pull this off in about 6 days, which is epic. And it kind of is a testament to our tagline, which is do things. Building a startup is all about doing things, not just thinking about things and planning. It's a little bit of planning and then it's getting out there and testing. So today what we're going to do is, we're talking about goal setting, OKRs. We're talking about how to build a startup. I'm going to start with a few observations that I've had from my career. I guess I can advance here. This is me. This is Fyodor. I've led the expansion, the international expansion, at 4 different unicorns. Very different unicorns, each one of them. I started out with Evernote, and that was a freaking crazy ride. That was amazing. At the height of Evernote, we were growing at 120,000 new users every day, which is just hard to even imagine, right? So that was a B2C startup, and it was amazing. And that's when I first started really coming to Korea and doing business here. We got Richard Min in the house here, a dear old friend of mine, because he helped me the most when I came to Korea for the first time, and really got me involved in the startup ecosystem here in Seoul. So thank you for that, Richard. And over the course of my career, I've, of course, built startups. Evernote was the first. Let me see if I can do this. Then it was Weebly, which is kind of like Wix or Squarespace, a web page building platform. And then the weirdest name in the business. I worked at a company. Imagine how hard it is to tell your mom.
Troy, can we have a little competition? Whoever can spell maybe wins a little something.
Yeah, who can spell How do you spell We got to try here. Boom. Nailed it. And a funny little tidbit is that, I always love in Korea to figure out how phonetically they say our names, like Ebonotu, or is So that's the Korean version of And then most recently, I worked at a company called Drata, which it's DRATA, and they are a cybersecurity startup, and grew from 0 revenue to $20 million in ARR in 18 months. Absolutely insane growth for a B2B startup. And our average contract value was only $15,000. So it was a big, highly transactional type of a business. So that's kind of my background and where I'm coming from. And what I wanted to do today, I'm assuming that most all of you have heard of OKRs or either know a OKR. So I don't want to, if you want to get the details of OKRs, the nitty-gritty details, what do we do for that? Go to freaking YouTube, right? You can learn anything on YouTube. So I want to talk to you more about how to build a unicorn and kind of thread through that process why OKRs are important and why setting goals are important for your team and managing your team appropriately. So hopefully this goes well. Let's get into it. All right. Are you guys bored? You're not bored, are you? You guys look fabulous. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. So what makes a unicorn possible? Now, obviously, a lot of things are necessary for a unicorn to be possible. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I think are important that I've noticed as I've worked at 4 different unicorns in all different stages of growth. Some were not unicorns when I started and became unicorns. Other ones were unicorns when I did start, and I kind of saw continued growth from there. So these are just my observations, and I want to share these with you and kind of maybe compare notes with you guys and see what you think. So number 1 is mindset. And I'm going to kind of bring this home to Korea, right? So if, we have a lot of 외국인들 in the room today. So welcome all the 외국인s. Like, 만나서 반갑습니다. 오셔서 되게 기쁩니다. 정말. So, but for the Koreans in the room, and maybe some other people that come from other countries that have a similar educational system, the educational system in Korea is focused on conformity, and it's focused on just do what you're told, and the 선생님 is God and knows all, right? So you don't question, you just kind of like, to survive, you go through and do what you need to do to get the 만점 on the test so that you can get good grades, go to Seoul 대학교 and work at Samsung. Right? Like that's kind of the expected journey in Korea, and that's kind of like beat into us as we go through school, right? Now, then we get to work and it keeps happening, right? We get to work and it's still very much like that. It's very top-down kind of a situation. So in our minds, we kind of get used to this and think that's the way things are. And what it does is, I think it creates an NPC mindset. This is something I came up with recently, right? I'm not a gamer myself, but I had to ask Fyodor, I said, what are those like, is there a name for the characters in games that just kind of like bump around and don't do much, And he's like, oh yeah, it's an NPC. So NPCs are, I would say, now, you guys are rare. You guys are entrepreneurs in this room. Entrepreneurs are relatively rare, actually, in the world, net. Most people are kind of bumping around in their lives as NPCs, assuming that there's one right answer to everything, that, that what they do doesn't really matter, that they just have to do their minimum, get their paycheck, and go home, right? Like, that's kind of an NPC lifestyle. And I think it's very anti-entrepreneur, or opposite of what an entrepreneurial lifestyle or mindset is. Especially this one, like asking for permission is, a big one. Like, you don't want to break the rules, whereas entrepreneurship, you're trying to change the world. And guess what? The world fights back. I met recently with the CEO of Soka, and he's been on a hellacious journey getting in trouble in the courts and just like legal battles trying to build his startup for years. And I've been watching it through Facebook. I'm pretty old friends with him, and catching up with him again, it was just amazing to see the tenacity and how he kept pushing it back and not asking for permission, but making things happen. And he ended up taking that company public recently. So that's really, really cool. Rather than being an NPC, we believe in a do things mindset. That's kind of the whole thing behind Relevant. As I was growing these unicorn companies, I helped a lot of startups. Well, I like to think I helped a lot of startups. I hope I did. But I was a mentor. As I was kind of, building these companies, I would meet with startups, whether it be here, India, Colombia, all over the world. And I would try to give as much help and advice as I could, but I couldn't go really deep, right? I was building my own thing, right? I had a job. So I couldn't really do that. So the cool thing about Relevant now is I'm able to actually work with startups rather than just kind of advising them. And that's why this whole do things concept came up for our company ethos, is because it's so important as startups to do things, because that's the only way that things get pushed forward. It's so easy to get lost in your product or your plans, etc., and not really do things. And that's kind of the danger when you're an entrepreneur. Action is everything. So we don't believe that there's any right answer other than what the market tells us is right? We all have our opinions of what we think will work. Get out there and test it and let the market tell you the truth. And that's the only way that you can kind of build a unicorn. The companies that I've worked at have always been very almost excited about running toward the pain, running toward the answer they don't want to hear so that they can knock that down and overcome it, right? So I think this is an important concept. The market has the only right answers. And we know that perfection doesn't exist, therefore we do. When you think that perfection exists, it's hard to do because you keep trying to get there. And I think that's kind of a thing that holds a lot of startups back. And of course, innovation is at the core of being a startup. So I think that's definitely non-NPC, is being innovative and doing things that are interesting and new and pushing things forward. And yeah, a couple of other things here. So our whole concept with Relevant is to do things. And that's what we do with our companies. And so that's kind of the first concept that I want you guys to know is just make sure, take stock of where you're at and like always ask yourself, should we be taking action on this or should we be like analysis paralysis on it? Because that will make a big difference in your trajectory and how fast you can grow. The second thing, and there's only two things, so this is the second thing, it is a strategy. And has anyone heard of Principles by Ray Dalio? It's a really cool book. Yes, freaking A. It's an amazing book. There's this billionaire hedge fund manager, manages the largest hedge fund in the world, and his whole philosophy since the time he was very young was to, and the way he interacted with the world was this: to set goals, and then I kind of add in here, do things after you set goals, and then you encounter problems, issues, etc. We're all startup founders. We know that we create problems all day long, right? But the important thing is then you diagnose the problems and say, what the hell happened? How can we do better next time? How do we make this into something that's going to be great? And then you redesign it, and then you do it again. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the faster that you can iterate in this model, the faster your company is going to grow and the faster you're going to overcome problems, et cetera. And some companies have this DNA of speed. And that is one of the very deciding factors in creating a really fast-growing and dynamic company. So always ask yourself, what is my velocity here? How can we as a team iterate quicker and move quicker rather than, just thinking about it? Now, I have an example here. And Richard, pay attention to this. You're going to like this, okay? I think this is the next one. Ooh, dude, how about it, man? So this is me. Back in the day when I had hair and I could do hand plants on a big ramp. And the reason that I show you this is entrepreneurship is much more than just watching YouTube videos, reading books, being book smart about it. It's a combination of that. Yes, you should be doing that, but then you need to couple that with action. And the reason I show you this is, and Richard will, totally resonate with this, skateboarding is such a great example of entrepreneurship, right? It is the process of entrepreneurship. So you want to learn a new trick. Number one, you're going to get hurt and you just kind of accept that. And then number two, what do, Richard? You ask people who can already do a hand plant and you say, how are you doing that? Like, how do you lean? Where do you put your body? What angle are you hitting the coping, right? So you ask, that's your YouTube phase of like, how do I do this? But even with the best coach, trainer, whoever, you're not going to make a hand plant the first time you try it. In fact, I would say it probably took me over 100 tries, probably even more than that. Too easy 200. Yeah, exactly. That's what exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like way up there. But you try, and remember the iteration cycle that I was talking about. Every time you try, you learn just one little thing different. how to mix it up, etc. And then one fine day this happens, and all the chicks are after you, man. Right? But this is what it's all about. So I want to show you, kind of what this is like in real life.
You think that hurts?
And then you get the money shot, right? But that doesn't happen, right? Like overnight. You see these we would watch these skateboard videos, and you'd see these guys doing freaking amazing tricks. But what you didn't see, especially back in the day, is they never showed the 15, 20 tries that they did just breaking their bones to make that trick. That's entrepreneurship. That's the cyclical thing that we need to go through. It hurts, it's painful, but you know what? You face it and you do it, and you end up the hero eventually. So this is kind of something that was always in my heart from the time I was very young in high school. And I think that's why I love entrepreneurship, because just the cycle is exactly the same, and it's very creative. So this is a typical iteration cycle of just like a normal company. Like most companies that I see are like this. I would say this could be kind of like a okay startup, right? That's going. By the way, Samsung would be like right here, because they have such a great thing going. They're making so much money, they don't want to change anything. So they're going to iterate really slowly and carefully and make sure they do this. And then typical startup here will do this. And I would say the reason they do that at a slower pace is because mostly fear. When you launch something into the world, it's freaking scary. So it's a lot more comfortable to just keep working on it. And this is something that I call the nth feature fallacy. And that is, if we just add this next feature, that's going to change everything. Guess what? It doesn't in most cases. So stop thinking that next feature is going to open up the world for you, and kind of back up and say, okay, let's do more out there. Let's stop being comfortable and not pushing into the world and letting the world kind of knock us around a little bit. Let's get out there, experience it, and do the iterative cycle. So this is kind of more of a unicorn trajectory, just like speed and up, right? Like just never taking no for an answer, getting knocked around in the market very frequently, but using that to grow, using that to scale, using that to do things. And I would say just one little example of that is like this event, right? We put this event together in 6 days, and we very easily, and we even said it, oh, there's not enough time. We very easily could have said there's not enough time. Number one, we wouldn't have been able to meet all of you beautiful people. And number two, we wouldn't have been able to build this muscle and figure out how to do it and figure out how to do it better. So that's the concept that we're talking about. Now, finally, this leads me to OKRs. So every company, every unicorn company that I've worked at, we've used OKRs. Actually, I take that back. Evernote, we did not use OKRs. My only KPI that I had when I first started was, and I specifically, you start a new job, like, let's talk KPIs. What are my KPIs? What should I be doing? And my boss said, your only KPI is to be awesome. And I'm like, okay, I will, and luckily they gave me a lot of freedom, right, Richard? I could do some crazy shit. It was awesome. So I had a lot of freedom, and I could go out and try things and break things and really figure out what worked. And luckily, more often than not, I did figure out what worked, but I found a lot of things that didn't work as well. But that was, a great way of going through that cycle very, very quickly and being able to add so many users in growth over the 5-6 years that I was there. Now, the other companies that I was at, especially Weebly, I would say Weebly was the first company where I got to OKRs. Like I really learned the OKR system and embraced it, and they used it really effectively. The founders of Weebly were pretty young, but very damn good. They were really good at running that company. I was so impressed with them. And I learned so much from them, and the OKR framework was definitely something that I learned from them. So if you think about it, KPIs are kind of like one-dimensional. They're like, okay, here's a metric we're going to measure, and we either make it or we don't, and this is what you're responsible for, right? So it's very kind of top-down and just like, this is the number, end of story, we're going to do this. And that's kind of how we manage things for probably hundreds of years, if not thousands, right? The difference with OKRs, and, Allo will talk a little more deeply about this, is it's a little more flexible. And the thing that I really like about OKRs, especially at Weebly when I first learned it and started really doing it with my team and the rest of the company, is that you get this top-down, bottoms-up approach. So what I really liked is that we would, as an executive team, come up with the top-level outcomes that we wanted to develop based on our strategy. So you may be thinking, oh, we want to raise money next quarter or late this year. So we want to be at this level of revenue or ARR by this time so that we can raise money and make this happen, right? So that's the strategic side where the executives and founders kind of come in and say, this is what we need to do high level. And then we would let the teams, we would always say, I thought this was a cool term, ladder up to it. So we'd let them ladder up their goals and their OKRs to these top level goals. So the cool thing about OKRs, as opposed to just KPIs, is that it truly aligns the whole organization around these top level things so that you can now start to make good decisions as an individual. You don't have to be told. You can make good decisions now as a frontline worker as to what you do or you don't do, where you spend your time, where you don't spend your time. So I liked that clarity. It felt like we were all pushing the same way. Whereas just with metrics, you can have the sales team has metrics that make them act a certain way and do certain things. And then the product team may have different metrics that might not be aligned with the sales team. So that's where you get into trouble with metrics. And that's why I like the OKR framework so much. And how many people here have actually used the OKR framework for what you're doing? Okay. So a few, and I would say it's when you start hitting kind of like hyper growth and you really start clicking with the market is a great time to start using OKRs, because that's when your team's growing, chaos ensues, it becomes really crazy. You're breaking all your systems over and over as you grow through these cycles. So OKRs can be a great kind of leveler and a way to keep the organization aligned even with all the chaos. You guys are all startup people. How many people feel like you're in chaos sometimes? Okay, now we got almost everyone. That's right. That's what we are. We're startups, right? It's all about chaos and pushing forward. So those are my kind of observations from creating unicorns. Those the mindset is really important. Don't be an NPC, be a doer. Always skew towards action. And then, secondarily, take those hits, cycle through that cycle so that you can be always improving and taking market feedback, which is the truth, And that'll tell you if your product is good or not. That'll tell you if people are really excited about your product or not, right? Let's get those answers quickly. And if they're not excited about your problem, that is a problem. If they're not excited about your product, that's fine. We know that now. Now you can do something about it. Let's not avoid that kind of outcome so that you can keep getting better. That's so critical to building a significant company. So, look at these guys, crazy. So if you guys want to, if you've liked anything you've heard from what I've been saying and want to engage with us, do a strategy session, talk with us about kind of your specific situation in your startup, happy to do that. Feel free just to kind of take a snap of the QR code. And I think it will lead you to a page where you can go through a little survey, tell us about your company, and then schedule like something on Calendly, which soon will be Recatch. How many people know what Recatch is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. I need to report back to Typed, like what our penetration is there, but that's good. So, Typed just came out with Recatch, which is like a Calendly kind of scheduling thing, but better. So, we will be using that soon. All right. So, with that, the importance of OKRs is to align your company through the chaos. Now, I'm going to turn the time over to our esteemed Stella from Allo to kind of share with us a little bit about OKRs, a little more detail on OKRs and how they manage them beautifully in Allo. So, Stella, let's go. Now we need to do a switchover of computers. So why don't you try to do that and I'll tell a joke. Just kidding. I don't have any jokes.
I can talk about the format, what's coming.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful.
And guys, give it up for Troy Malone. Hope you enjoyed that. So Stella will tell us about more in depth about OKRs and the way to manage and about what Allo does. Then we will open it for Q&A. And really, I want it to be a real fireside chat where we share all of our questions, concerns. We're not afraid to be vulnerable so that altogether we can brainstorm and come up with good solutions. And then we'll do just networking, everyone just hanging together. And then we'll probably go somewhere and we'll see where it turns into. Okay, sounds good? Yes. Say yeah. Woo. Stella, are you ready?
Stella, everyone.
Hello. Hey, everyone. I'm Stella. I'm leading the customer experience at Allo. And if you cannot tell, I'm very, very nervous because it's actually my first time speaking in front of this big audience. So please bear with me and give me some time if I forget what I'm going to say. All right. So Troy actually already asked, like some of you did have experience setting up OKRs. And so that's why I'm actually here today, because all the challenges that Troy mentioned, we actually face them. I can say I'm pretty good at it right now. Like Allo, we are using OKRs. But yeah, it wasn't easy from the beginning. And maybe some of you already face that issues, or in the future you will face it. So I'm actually going to share how our team and also our users overcome those challenges and successfully implement OKRs into our workflow. So as Troy kind of did mention, when we first actually started researching on OKRs, we realized that a lot of the teams actually just use this Google Sheets or some sort of tables to actually track all of their OKRs and progress. And we heard a lot from our users complaining that every morning when they wake up, they just open up this document and they see a lot of these digits and tags. It just gives them a headache. Or they were just saying that, yeah, I need to spend so much time kind of setting up all the formulas or all the templates. And when I'm done with that, I just don't even feel comfortable sharing this sheet with our teammates because I don't want people to mess it up. So some of you might be thinking, then what about just finding an OKR tool out there? There are a lot of OKR tools, right? But what we realized is that a lot of the OKR tools out there are actually really complicated and overwhelming for startups, or especially teams that just start kind of exploring OKRs. And most importantly, these OKR tools are actually not connected with our day-to-day workflow. So what I mean by that is that after we set up this beautiful strategy on this OKR tool, then we will move on to do our daily tasks on other platforms. And because they are not connected to each other, we oftentimes start to forget why we're actually working on the things we're working on. And because teams are working in silo a lot these days, we don't really talk to each other about what we are working on either. It just leads to misalignment between teammates, and people start to feel lack of commitment and also lack of engagement towards those shared OKRs. So we come up with this conclusion. When a team is trying to implement OKR system into their workflow, there are 3 key points that we should consider. So first, is this OKR system visually engaging and intuitive enough so that when we actually set up our OKRs, people don't feel that it's like a daunting task? And secondly, how easy is it for us to actually connect the OKRs that we set into our day-to-day workflow? And lastly, is there some sort of mechanism that can actually ensure team alignment as well as commitment between the teammates towards this shared and collaborative mission? So since we've seen quite some successful cases by now, I would actually like to guide you through like an example of how we can actually easily implement OKRs for a hypothetical company. And maybe you can understand a little bit more on, although like there's some challenges, of course, but there's also some ways that can help you easily implement OKRs. So because I'm a little biased, I'm actually going to show you the example through our tool, which is Allo. So here, let's imagine that there's this company, let's call it Company A, and they're a startup. So they actually just acquired their first 100 customers. How exciting, right? But aspirations quickly kick in. So what's their next step? They can't just stop there. So they talked with their team what they want to achieve next, and they decided that they actually want to grow really fast. So they set themselves a company OKR, a company objective, which is become a market leader. Well, that's great. This is a bold mission they can do. But how do they actually become a market leader? And also, what does it even mean to become a market leader? Well, to think about it, they can break it down. They thought of, okay, so let's first try to talk with at least 200 new perspectives and also increase the competitive win rate to at least 90%. And finally, they want to hit the minimum MRR of $10,000. So they know that once those 3 numbers are reached, they can actually confidently call themselves a market leader. And yes, if you don't know yet, these 3 concrete goals are the key results under this big company objective. So you can just think of the objective as the high-level bold mission, and the key results as the guiding stars, the trackable metrics that can actually help you calculate the success of the objective. But can this company actually become a market leader without like product teams or like marketing teams' help? Well, probably not. In order to actually sell this much, first, product team, of course, need to make sure that their product is always at the best quality. So they need to keep iterating and improving their product based on user feedback. And similarly, the marketing team, they need to make sure that they plan out some sort of beautiful strategies so that they can increase their user base and also their brand awareness. So what we are seeing here, they are the team objectives and key results that actually feed into and align towards this bigger company mission, which is becoming a market leader. So now we've set a couple of OKRs. Let's take a look at how they can actually be laid out if we utilize the visual well. So here you can see at the top, there's this big company bold mission, which is becoming a market leader. And under that, there are 2 branches, one for the product team, the other one for the marketing team. So with this pretty tree view, everyone on the team, they can easily understand how each objective, how each key results, and how each team is related to each other. And also as a collaborator or as an owner of any of those key results or any of those objectives, of course, they can also easily understand how their contribution is actually impacting the whole big company collaborative mission. So yeah, now it's the last part of setting up OKRs, which is the initiative. So if you don't really know what initiatives are, you can think of it as like the actionable items that can help you to actually hit your key results. So let's take this solve 10 usability issues as an example. So in order to actually solve 10 usability issues, you first probably need to know what kind of issues you have to solve. So what you need to probably do first is to set up a research plan and also recruit some research participants. And after doing the research, you need to analyze the data and also prioritize the issues that actually come out from the research. So these 4 are some examples that you can make as initiatives for this particular key result. So now you might have noticed how we got to this point, from setting up the higher level objective for the company to deciding on what kind of things we can actually do to hit the key result. The process is actually not that complicated or tedious. We simply quickly set up a couple of OKRs for this company by thinking of this bold mission and thinking of how we can break them down into trackable metrics, and finally plan out the things that we can actually do in order to reach those goals. And remember, we actually don't want too many OKRs in one session. For a team that's about like 10 to 20 people, usually one session, 3 to 5 objectives will be more than enough. It will help you actually keep focused on the things that you actually want to achieve. All right, so now we set up the OKRs for the company, and we also kind of covered on how utilizing the visual can help you understand the OKRs a lot more easily. We still got some problems unsolved though. So how do we actually connect our OKRs, the OKRs that we set, into our daily workflow? And also, how do we make sure that everyone on our team are aligned and engaged in those collaborative goals? Well, now I will be sharing some of the use cases of Allo, our team, and also our users, how we've actually solved these problems. So these 2 points are actually connected with each other. So because we don't actually connect our day-to-day workflow with the goals and missions that we're supposed to be collaboratively working on, a lot of the times we stop caring what other people are doing and misalignment just starts to spine. But what actually makes OKRs so easily to be forgotten or to just be isolated by the day-to-day workflow that we have? Well, because we don't do our work on a goal management tool. What we do is that we set this goal on this tool, and then we'll move on to say, let's say Figma. We'll move on to Figma to do the design. We'll move on to, let's say, Google Docs to actually write the marketing contents, and we will move on to GitHub to do some sort of like code reviews. So all the teams and everyone is just using different tools to actually work on their own tasks and track their progress. there's just little to no connection between them. So how we are solving this problem is that we are actually trying to connect all of the tools that we are using within the team into one unifying hub. And we make sure that everyone on the team can get real-time updates on the important metrics across all the platforms. So again, I'm a little biased, so I'll get back to Allo and show you what I mean by that. Yeah, so in Allo, we can actually create customizable dashboards and customize all the widgets within the dashboard. So what we do at our team is that we always create this one OKR dashboard, and we integrate all the tools that we're using. So for example, Asana, GitHub, Slack, Zoom, etc. And we make those metrics that's like related to the current session OKRs. So no matter what team you're on and no matter what tools you are using, you can always refer back to this one dashboard and know what other teams are working on. So for instance, even as a designer, you can just take a look at this widget and know what the engineering team is working on Asana. And as an engineer, you can always look at this activity feed and know what kind of contents are being updated by the marketing team. And for all these like OKR related metrics, it's an easy way to kind of keep everyone aligned on the latest progress of the collaborative goals that we are all contributing to. But utilizing this dashboard and also integration is actually not the only way for us to connect our day-to-day work with the OKRs we set. So another way that most of our users are actually using is online collaboration tools. So I bet all of you have this experience of utilizing markers and like sticky notes to actually just brainstorm on ideas and also plan out strategies, just paste them on walls or paste them on whiteboard, right? So that's actually what exactly our users are doing after they set up their OKRs. So remember we talked about the initiative. There's actually some hidden magic behind it. For each initiative in Allo, they are actually a collaborative whiteboard. So for example, for this user research plan, after the team set up their initiative, they can actually jump right into this canvas and start talking about what kind of features they want to research on, what kind of research questions they want to focus on, or they can just easily attach all the related documents or reference directly onto this one board. And because everything is like documented kind of like along the way as the discussions goes on, everyone on the team can easily refer back to this document and know what's being discussed and also what kind of decisions are being made for each OKR. Now, there's another type of situation. So for this recruit research participants initiative, well, instead of having all the participants' data put into one single canvas, it's probably a lot more efficient to have one canvas for each user participant. So in this case, what our user could do is to utilize the project feature over here. So you can imagine a project as like a folder where you can gather multiple canvases or multiple online whiteboards. So in this particular case, what our user could do is that they could create one canvas for each user research participant and then gather everyone into this user research participants project. And you might be asking, then how does it connect to our OKRs? Well, what they can do is simply utilize this related feature here, and they can quickly select this project and connect it with the associated OKR. So yeah, now I've shared some of the ways that our team Allo and also our users are doing to kind of easily implement OKRs as well as connecting them with our daily workflow. Do you all feel that OKRs are a lot more approachable now? So yeah, hopefully after this session, you kind of get an idea of how to easily implement OKRs by considering the visual representation of how you can set them and also how you can connect them with our day-to-day workflow, as well as how you can align and keep your team engaged on the collaborative and shared goals that you set. So yeah, if you are interested in OKR and still are trying to find a way to kind of set everything up and are interested in Allo, we do have a special offer for you right now. To thank you all for coming here, we want to provide you like a special discount. So you can scan this QR code, or you can also find the code back there at our booth on the brochure. Yeah, just scan it, and yeah, someone will get back to you. But yeah, even if it's not about Allo, if you just want to chat more and ask questions, I guess now is the time, and we'll invite Troy back to the stage. Yeah, thank you.
Give it up. Amazing job for the first ever in live presentation, huh? Guys, what do you think? Stella, this was absolutely amazing. Guys, we have food for you, and food is important. So my idea is everyone goes, but don't run away, because we need to get to know each other. You can't just take food and run away and don't get to know the host better. So go get food, come back with food, and we'll do the Q&A and discussion and fireside chat. Sounds good? So like 5 minutes, go get yourself fed. I mean, bring the plate here, and we'll just start talking. All right?
Yeah.
Woo!
See, I be catching you staring. Be careful, the idle mind is a dangerous place to be left in. But keep your eyes on me. Yeah, your heart don't stand a chance. It feels like it's been far too long. Your knees can't hold your legs. Your feet just wanna pace. The eyes keep me all in a trance. Let me ask you. Would you leave it all in the back of your head? All in the palm of my hand. Ain't nobody holding you back. Don't it feel like it's been far too long, girl? Your heart don't stand a chance. Your knees just wanna break. Your eyes keep me all in the trance. And let me ask you. I know the approach is so far from what you used to. Would you know it? Hey, do I hold the candle to the last one over your moon? Baby, of course I do. Hey, I'm not closing my tab. Don't it feel like it's been far too long, girl? Your heart don't stand a chance. Spinning the greatest hits of hauling notes, open up chronic smoke. I know my time will flee, but your heart don't stand a chance. It feels like it's been far too long. The moment is all that we have. My meter should be up by the half. A ticket is the least of my cares. So let me ask you, am I dreaming? Mine on the tip of a cloud. Is it real as a stone in your crown? See, ain't nobody towing my jag. Don't it feel like it's been far too long, girl? Your heart don't stand a chance. I'm waiting for the white flag. You're talking with the blunt in your hand. Hey, won't you pass that? but I'm not over what we had. Don't it feel like it's been far too long, girl? Your heart don't stand a chance.
I remember being tumbled around and not being able to get to the surface where the air was, and looking down and seeing my body spinning around in the white water.
blaming the machine. Now I'm talking about it, talking about it. I can't complain about it. I gotta keep my balance and just keep dancing on it. We getting funky on the scene, and you know about it. Like a star on the screen, watch me tip all on it. Now maybe whether I'm high or low, maybe whether you're high or low, you got to tip on the tightrope. Yeah, tip on the tightrope. Baby, baby, whether you're high or low, maybe whether you're high or low, tip on the tightrope. Baby, let me see your tightrope. And I'm still tipping on it.
Maybe you
Gotta keep your balance so you fall into the gap. It's a challenge, but I manage because I'm cautious with the strap.
have it in a little in the background so it's not quiet. Right?
Yeah, can we a little bit louder? Perfect.
I got a feeling that you brought me to you. Yeah, you did, babe. Look what your mind's imagination can do. Making shit true. Yeah, you do, babe. So let me take away your pain, give me all of your emotions. Land it like a plane on my back if you can't hold it. Life is but a dream that you manifested slowly. So fuck a fantasy, it's your motherfucking moment. It's your motherfucking moment. It's your motherfucking moment. Life is but a dream. Here we are inside of it, and you're inside of me. Until you work, sure, I'll fall asleep. Finally, you can add this moment to your memory. Ooh, take away your pain, give me all of your emotions. Land it like a plane on my back if you can't hold it. Life is but a dream that you manifested slowly. So fuck a fantasy, this your motherfucking moment.
Pum, pum, pum. Can you, Alex, can you give guys the mics and let the show? Okay, everybody. Guys, it will be really great if you could kind of gather around a little closer so that we have more kind of a intimate... They're eating. Yeah, I know, you're eating. Okay, Hassan, it's for you. Just sit, take, yes, perfect. Yeah, you have to worry. Guys, please, round of applause for Hassan because you don't have to move because he moved. Guys, you can take your seat on stage because you are the experts today. Do you guys have questions? Let's start with that. Maybe you don't even have any questions and then say yeah if you maybe have a question. Oh, interesting. Okay. We need to do some ice breaking here, don't we? Yeah. Let's start with comments. Yeah, that's a good idea. Little testimonials. Who can, guys, the Stella and Troy, you know, prepare the presentations and work hard to deliver value for you. How do you feel about that? And just comments about that.
I'll just give them the mics. So you keep yours, Fedor?
Perfection.
Yes.
Thank you, Alex.
Hi, just wanted to thank both the speakers. You did a great job, especially for your first presentation. That was awesome. And also, Troy didn't shamelessly plug Relevant. I'm not aware of what you guys do, so if you could tell us a little bit about Relevant, that'd be awesome. I crept you guys on LinkedIn, and I think there's a lot to share. And it might be relevant for the people here.
I hope it's relevant. Yeah, we're actually doing something really fun at Relevant, and it's something that I've wanted to do for my whole career, and I finally have the chance to do it. As I mentioned, I've worked all over the world, and I've always mentored startups all over the world, but I couldn't really jump in and do real work with them. It was more high-level mentorship. So what Relevant is really two sides of the business. One is really jumping in deep with companies and working on growth, working on fundraising, working on different systems that we've come up with based on what their needs are. So one is the Relevant revenue system, where we come in and help people, companies generate revenue in a new market quickly. One of the things that I had to learn over the course of my career is how to do just that. I always had smaller budgets, and I had to go to Europe and figure out how to get the revenue machine working quickly. And so I'm taking that know-how, those best practices and playbooks, and implementing them now at startups. Working with a lot of startups here in Korea, but we work with startups all over the world. And then the other side of our business is individual based, and it helps startup founders as well as key employees develop the skills they need through something that we call a Climb. It's an app, and it's a format where you kind of consume very short video content on how to do something, and then you get a challenge based on what you just learned to actually take action on that, again, do things. And then you post that to the community, and it's a great community of entrepreneurs that are kind of commenting, helping, working with each other to build great companies. So that's what the Climb app is. So it's deeper consulting, and the Climb app is what we're doing right now. Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to plug something. Guys, for the OKRs, the book about OKRs called Measure What Matters by John Doerr is one of the best business books, I think, ever out there. John Doerr came up with a system. And
You're saying doer. It's door.
Doer. No, but
Doer.
I'm saying doer. To me, he's a doer.
I'm a doer.
Yeah.
He's a door.
But to me, he's a doer. He implemented it at Google. Like early on at Google, they started doing things the OKR way, and he explains how it works. And then a lot of successful companies started also implementing it. Airbnb, Uber, Bill Gates Foundation, Bono from U2. You hear in this book stories of really the inside of how the companies work and get aligned from these people. And I don't have time to read books, but I always listen to books whenever I'm in transit anywhere. So the audiobook, they actually, all of these founders, Brian Chesky, the Google founder, not the...
Bono.
Bono from U2. They went and recorded their voices, telling their stories. So it's really like you connect to the source in this book. So highly, highly recommend it. It will give you all the ideas about, how teams align and work. Honest stories, right? Have you guys read it? Of course you did. No? Oh, yeah, that's cool. So, any other feedback? And as doers, we welcome positive and negative feedback. Negative is just kind of #learned. Anything else you want to say to our speakers?
Also questions? One. Okay, we have one. I will head over. Who is the one with the question? Oh, here. Okay.
Hi, I'm Amy. I just want to say thank you for your presentation. It was really helpful. I actually wasn't familiar with OKRs before this, and I'm very interested in using it. I was wondering, Stella, you mentioned that it's really good for like big teams, but is it also good for like smaller teams or like for smaller companies that are, using other tools such as, just organizing tools like Asana, but then be able to implement that as more of a task type of tool as well, like one of those applications where you can just use that for like your to-dos and then use that for OKRs as well.
So let me clarify the question. So are you asking whether Allo is good for also kind of like managing your day-to-day tasks? Yeah, so I would say that like we never really want to replace any of those task management tools. So Allo is more for like a higher level project management, and you can easily get aligned with your team like high levelly. But we never really want to actually replace any sort of like task management tools like Asana or like Jira. Yeah, and in terms of another question that you asked, whether it's good for like small teams. So are you asking for OKRs or for Allo? OKRs. Yes, for sure, definitely. So, for Allo? Okay, yes, definitely. So for Allo, actually, most of our most loyal users right now and customers, they are all like startups. So they are pretty much startups that's under like 50 members, and from like 2 to 3 people to up to like 50. They're all, yeah, it's all good for you. Yeah.
I want to add to that. My first business was education company. It was a language school, and I would always ask a person, but why do you want to learn a language? And they would give their real reason. And I started using OKRs on individual trajectories of one given person, because what OKR is, especially after you read the book, this is just the mindset. This is kind of how you start seeing the world. And you want to do it almost like for your relationship, for your friendship. You're like, what is the goal? I want to feel more connected with this person. How can I get there is key results, right? Oh, I need to call them every week. I need to like, invite them to a hang and see them in person every month, etc. And you start tracking these key results to get to this objective. So really, in my opinion, it works just like not even with a team. It works on an individual level. And I use this with thousands of people to have them get to their goals. Mm. And we use it in a climb with each individual founder. This is how we set goals and track the progress, really. There's no better way, I almost want to say, to do it. And then you can, like with any system, you take it and you make it your own, right? Like it's just a template that you start with and then you adjust it. And honestly, with Allo, I was always looking for a great OKR tracking system. I tried when I look for something, I try everything that's out there. And I think what you guys just did, this is the best out there in the market, honestly. Because the Google and all the people that are using it, all these companies, they develop their own platforms to track OKRs, but they don't give it to you. So as you listen to the book, you're like, well, sounds great, but how do I actually do it in my company? Well, no, that's an answer. Woo! Alex? I see some hands up.
All right. First, I absolutely love the hashtag do things. Fully embrace that. We've just started a side project, which is hashtag get stuff done. So fully aligned on that. I love that. I have a question about moving from KPIs to OKRs. Usually with KPIs, they're not shared. Most KPIs are kind of personal. It seems like in here with OKRs, suddenly they become collaborative, they become shared. And so I'm wondering how that changes the dynamic of the the competitive spirit, or how people work towards that, and then how that plays out like in different companies and organizations.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. And I'll speak specifically to my first experience with it at Weebly. We were around 300 people, fast-growing company, and what OKRs really did for us is it tiered the goal setting and the vision. So, in other words, the CEO and the exec team that I was on, we would set the high-level goals, the high-level outcomes that we wanted to see from the organization as a whole. Then the VPs would go with their teams and plan. And once the VP would set kind of what are the outcomes that my product group or engineering group are going to do to meet this bigger outcome, that would kind of align everyone. And then each individual would say, okay, if this is our group's goal, how am I specifically going to add to that? So the beautiful thing that I saw that happened is like literally you could go to any level of the organization and people were aligned. People knew why they were doing things. I think a lot of times in startups, we find ourselves doing things. Like you may have employees that are like doing things. And you're like, why are you doing that? And they have some weird reason, but it makes sense to them, right? We're not aligned most of the time in startups because things are happening so quickly. So OKRs give us a good way to align the organization from top to bottom, bottom to top. And it was a great experience. And it was my first time to see it. And that's why I was so, frankly, sharply impressed with, it was 3 founders. One was over product, one was over the technology, and one was the CEO doing CEO things. And they were just an amazing team. I was so damn impressed with them because of the leadership they showed through OKRs. Does that make sense?
And just so a follow-up question. So with visibility down to the individual level of OKR across the entire company?
Yeah. So it makes it easy to say, and Stella gave a great example. Engineering is always wondering, where in the hell are the designs? And you know, the designers are pushing stuff out and saying, when is that going to be implemented, right? Like what stages is that in engineering now for release, right? So that cross kind of departmental coordination starts to happen when you have these OKRs well aligned. Then you kind of know, like, okay, I know what design's doing. And you can just kind of look in there and see kind of what their overall objectives are. And another thing that it does is in startups, it's almost more important to say no to things than yes to things when it comes to workload, right? But when you get to 300 people, suddenly you get these silos developing, and the marketing team has its own kind of way of doing things, and this team's different, and right? So you start getting these weird things happening. And OKRs with that alignment helps kind of protect you against the tendency to say, yes, we'll do that. Like the marketing team I was horrible with the marketing team because I was always asking them to do stuff for me, right? And so it gave them a good way to push back without being an asshole. It's like when they pushed back, I kind of understood why, right? So that was also helpful, but I would still always get it done, even though they push back.
Yeah, another thing that it reduces is the just amount of meetings, right? These meetings where you need to just be and hours are spent, well, with a transparent system. And it's a leap to make everything transparent in your organization, right? So it's a process that is described in the book. And this is a lot of the founders are actually talking about, like how they were able to do this. It's a lot of the alignment and but then, like, the amount of meetings just reduces because everyone can see what everyone else is working on and how they're doing and how everything contributes to our overall kind of goal that we all set for ourselves, right?
Ali, it's your turn here.
First of all, I'll say thank you, Troy, for saying that don't be skeptical, launch the thing. Don't think that let's make a second feature better and then launch, because I just launched my thing yesterday and I was being skeptical like that because I was thinking
launching is scary, so kudos to you for launching. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it clarifies my mind when you said that. So onwards, when I'll be doing new features, I'll be not skeptical. Anyway, apart from that, I have a question that you have been working with a lot of startups and unicorns as well. What do you think, what differentiated a unicorn from not a unicorn company? Like, what is their mindset, or how do you define it? Like, what's the key factor that made them unicorn?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot of factors, but the two that I shared with you today are very key, and I saw that as a theme across the 4 unicorns I've worked at. So the mindset thing is really important. The do things philosophy and a bias toward action is kind of, I would say, a guiding principle that I've seen at unicorns. And then the pace of iteration and learning from the market is also a very key factor in building a unicorn. And I'll add one that I didn't put into the presentation. Every unicorn that I've worked at has absolutely obsessed over their customers and making sure that the offer is really meeting the need of the customer. So those are kind of some key things that I've seen. And then I would also say that the companies that I worked at were very good at doing things in phases. So if you have, for instance, a B2B SaaS product, it's tempting to try to get everything perfect before you launch, like you just did, right? Not that you got everything perfect, but you launched. That's awesome. So rather than getting it perfect before you launch, realize that launching, you're going to figure out if you can acquire users. That's the first step. Then the next problem you're going to create for yourself is a problem we've all experienced, is the leaky bucket. Okay, now we're getting a ton of users, but they're not sticking, damn it, right? How do we get them to stick? Then you solve that. And I have a whole kind of like presentation that I could do about product market fit is not a destination. It's simply a journey. And it changes as you grow your company. So every unicorn that I've grown at, product market fit is actively discussed in all of our meetings. It's just a different type of product market fit, right? Different stage of product market fit. So don't ever feel like you're done with product market fit, because if you keep relentless pursuit of excellence in product market fit, you're only going to get able to retain those users for longer, have longer lifetime value, and be able to truly crank up your business engine and your business model in the long term. So that's kind of what I've seen also at unicorns.
Well, and this is the perfect time to say that the product market fit presentation is coming on Wednesday, and we're right here, but from 6 to 8, we'll have the CEO of Liner here, which one of the companies that we work with. They're absolutely amazing. We'll have Born to Global, and Troy will lay out all his vision for product market fit the way he just teased it. You were not even thinking about
I wasn't even thinking. I wasn't gonna pitch that. But yes, it is kind of a fun way of thinking about product market fit. I think when I talk about it with entrepreneurs, it's usually like, oh, interesting. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Like it allows you to think about it in a different dimension almost, that makes it suddenly not this big thing on the hill that you're chasing after and seems so unattainable. I can get product market fit for most products, phase 1 product market fit in a new market in a matter of weeks. Easy. Like there's a process for that. You'll have a leaky bucket, sure, and then we solve that next, right? So I don't look at it as our business is done and the whole business model is working and we have product market fit in that context. That's how most people think about it. I think about it in phases. Let's cause one problem at a time and hit those one problems at a time so that we get to the end where we're like, we can capture customers at a reasonable price that makes sense for our business. We can retain them for the long term, and we're getting referrals from them as well. Like, if you can nail that over a period of time, a reasonable period of time, you're going to build a significant business.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Are there any follow-on questions on that before I hand over the mic to Dejis? Is it related to this one? Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So if it's not related, Dejis, it's yours.
Hey, Troy. Yeah. Like I had a query about Relevant itself. Like you showed the sign-up form. So like as a founder in Korea, I work in the manufacturing industry in Korea. So, like post filling the sign up form, I was wondering what the process looks like with Relevant. So after filling the form, like what would the experience look like working with Relevant going forward?
Let me first check if you really filled out the form.
We know your name.
So. No, I just scanned the QR. I didn't fill in my details yet.
Someone else filled out the form, but yeah, it sounds like you need to fill out the form. So yeah, like this is interesting, right? Like someone fills out a type form survey, which gives us the ability, well, it gives the entrepreneur the ability to kind of like articulate what you want to accomplish. So, it's personally, what skill do you want to develop? Do you want to learn how to pitch to investors? Do you want to learn how to find product market fit? What do you need to work on personally? And then secondarily, we ask, are there any events coming up that are driving a need for you to upskill quickly? So do you have a conference coming up? Do you need to do a presentation to all these people for your product, right? Like, is there an event coming up that you want to prepare for? So that's what the form is for. And then that culminates with, you schedule a call with Fyodor and I. Fyodor is much better than I at the onboarding, but there's an onboarding process where we kind of talk through what you want to accomplish, go through an OKR strategy session, and really map out a pathway that usually you get intensely excited about, because Fyodor, coming from education, is really talented at figuring out why you're doing what you're doing and helping you tie into that core why, and then laddering that up to where you want to get to in a short period of time, and then coming up with a pathway within our climb to actually start hammering away at that day by day. Right? It's very similar. It's interesting. It's very similar to Noom. If you're familiar with the weight loss app Noom, you get on there, you get a plan, and you answer a bunch of questions to get your plan formed, and then you have a coach, and they kind of help you along. Well, guess what? Losing weight is tough, and you have to be very consistent about it. Guess what? Building a business and building your career and your personal kind of skills is also tough, and it takes consistency and a plan to get there. So that's kind of how we're thinking about what relevant is, at least the climb piece.
Yeah, and I want to add that when you fill out the form, don't think about it, what do I want to learn? Think about it, what do I need to do, literally. Because doing, in our methodology, comes with learning how to do it as you have the support system to do it all of a sudden. Before you had to do it alone. Now you have us and everything, that all the content and the playbooks and everything that we not have created but are actively creating as we are working with the brightest startups to show what really works in August 2023. When we have ChatGPT and how we can use that, and all of this, really, it's kind of right here, right now. So that's what it is. And yes, it's an hour-long session with either both of us or one of us. We are doing the unscalable things right now as we are creating all these success stories now in this new market that we are unlocking here, right? So it's, in a way, it's a really great advantage. We won't be able to do this in 6 months, hopefully, right? Just be on every strategy call with everyone. But at this point, we are doing that.
And maybe quickly something I can add. So to summarize it, if it's okay, I think there are two main things the guys offer from Relevant. The first one is the growth system, which is kind of like a monthly subscription where they help you really on a personal level. And then there's a second product, which is the growth system, which is mostly targeted at startups that want to scale, that already have a team maybe, and that really want to get these insight strategies from Troy.
Yeah. The climb is the first one you said, the personal growth, and growth system is when we work with teams. We call it as a global co-founder. We really get into things, and we do a lot of things with the startup. So some things we even do for them. As an example, Allo is the team that we are working with, And we just, like Troy said, right? We just said, hey, let's do an event. Let's talk about OKRs. And the guy said, well, we have never done it before. And we said, well, yeah. And then we said, well, there should be a number one. And then you might see that you shine, like we just saw, you know. Who knows what this leads to from here? Now that Stella sees what she can do, and she sees how you guys were taking pictures of her slides and everything, you know, that is what unlocks the next milestones. Literally doing it, and can't repeat it enough. The fear and discomfort, instead of like running away from it, this is your signal to actually lean into that. If you are scared that it feels uncomfortable, this is probably where you need to go. And it's scary and uncomfortable, but this is why we are creating the support system, so, you know, it's not as scary, but still uncomfortable, and it should be this way when you're growing.
Yeah, I'll add just a little nuance to what we do. I gotta be careful how I say this. I'm not fond of consulting as a concept, right? It's someone paying you to do something for them, what you tell them to do, right? And we're decidedly different than that. In fact, our first kickoff call, when we do the deeper kind of engagement with a startup, number one, he mentioned we think of ourselves as your global co-founder. And the reason we say global co-founder is we're not going to come in like a consultant and say, okay, what do you want me to do? You're going to pay me money to just do something, check the box, and I'm off. That's how you get bad results. We come in, and as a co-founder, our first call, our kickoff call, we call it the uncomfortable call because we challenge you. You know, when you're telling us what you do and why you're doing it, we're kind of questioning why. Everything. And it's uncomfortable. But it's uncomfortable by design, and it's not overly uncomfortable, but usually what happens in these calls, and I think Stella, you might have been on our first were you on our first kind of kickoff call? I forget, but we had some very deep discussions with you guys, and it's like a story arc. Like, you know, at first it's kind of this, oh, we really don't know what we're doing like we think we did, right? Yeah. So that's uncomfortable. But the cool thing is by the end of the call, we've kind of faced that, and we've come up with some better strategies that actually make a hell of a lot of sense, usually. Sometimes we say we need to continue the call, but usually we'll have this story arc of like, oh shit, we really don't know what we thought we knew, because in companies, because we want to remain comfortable, we avoid asking the hard questions. We kind of like sweep it under the rug. It's like, oh shoot, our retention rate sucks, you know, but we're not talking about it, kind of a thing. So we kind of come in and act as your co-founder, and we're, you know, unapologetically just questioning and trying to get to the truth. Once we get to the truth of what is, where you're truly at, then we can start to make tremendous progress quickly. And that's, I love watching that whole process happen in our kickoff calls, because it's like transformative. And we've had a number of our customers after those calls say, this was like therapy. This is so cool, you know, because building a startup is freaking hard. And to have someone come in and kind of really unpack it with you and figure it out is like a big freaking deal, you know? So that's what I love about it. That's why I'm doing what we're doing on our terms. Not like the expected, we're going in and just making a buck and doing what you tell us to do, because we want to do what we all believe together is the right answer, and then test it and let the market tell us.
Cool. Any other questions? Florian, right? You had one? Please, not too much talking, Florian.
I would try. Yeah, we do.
We got a history here, yeah.
Thank you guys for the talks. So for a bit of context, I'm an engineer by trade. And when I built my first company with my co-founders, I was like started as a lead engineer and then CTO, and we were introduced to OKRs quite like early with some kind of accelerators. They were teaching us that, and I saw my teammates like being very amazed about OKRs and this approach. And as an engineer, I was kind of like not that much amazed, because as an engineer, that's what we do all the time, so to speak. We call it like divide and conquer. When something is way too hard to tackle, we just break it down in very small pieces, and then build up to actually build the bigger piece. And so that makes me think, the question is, do you think that that's why we see a lot of people with engineering background come to the position as CEO, because they have this approach to break things down? That's it. Was good.
No, that's a great question.
Woo!
And yeah, no, that's great. And imagine, I've never thought of that before, but that makes a heck of a lot of sense, because I know a lot of engineers and have worked with a lot of engineers, and that is kind of the engineering kind of flow as far as thought. And imagine that you didn't have that as a tool. That's all the rest of us.
Yeah.
We're running around with our heads cut off going, shit, how am I going to get all this stuff done? Right? And that engineering approach, it is very similar to breaking it. It's OKRs are very similar to that engineering approach. So I think that's a good observation. And I think that those in engineering are going to be much, kind of like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, I was like, how do you work?
Yeah.
And if you don't break things down like this.
Right. The only thing that I think that I noticed at Weebly, because we had a very big application with hundreds of engineers, right, where it gets really, really complex. And suddenly you find that, this team over here is working on something that they shouldn't really be working on based on, kind of the OKR flow. So it did help align the engineering teams in. Of course, once they understood kind of like what we were trying to accomplish. So some things got killed, as they should, when you're making those decisions. But yeah, that's a great observation. Very cool.
I will add to that. I think we owe it to engineers, actually, like the whole lean thing, like everything, the way we do business in the last 15 years. This is because of you guys, because of engineers. And also the reason that things actually work is because of you guys, the engineers. So we have to celebrate you a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
And Florian, I apologize. That was a really good question.
Yeah.
But you're right. I can speak too much.
Oh, that's such a doer's conversation there. This warms my heart to see.
Anyone else with a question? Maybe a follow-up? Oh, I saw a hand over there. Sorry.
Hi. Thank you for your information and your presentation. I just had a question regarding the co-founder contribution that you are working together with other startups, because usually startups they might be kind of lacking fund or things like that. So maybe maybe I misheard, but I was just wondering if you have a partnership kind of a system where you provide your profession and your co-founder collaboration with the startups on behalf of just not consulting fee, but something like sharing some kind of maybe profit or shares, things like that. Because I'm pretty curious about the real collaboration mechanism that would work out if we were to. I will probably contact you, but then just as a heads up. Thank you.
Okay. We are constantly iterating and thinking how do we make it available, right? The whole climb is making it available on an individual subscription, which is a fraction of the consulting fee. Now that I'm here, I'm a part of K-Startup Grand Challenge program. And hey to all of my friends from the program, guys, thank you so much for coming and supporting. It means a lot to see you here.
Thank you.
So now we are working with the government to make sure that more and more government programs, we had a conversation with Borton Global today, can use the funds that they get from the government to pay. So we are constantly working on making it available because our goal is to help startups succeed. This is why we're doing this. We could be doing anything else, but this is what we decided to do. So we will discuss it in this conversation. And this is where, full stop, wink, wink, let's talk.
Maybe something I can throw in here. I don't know if it's okay, but I heard incredible stories from Troy, kind of having been here a few years ago and having worked with a lot of founders, and then seeing the result right now happen already. Maybe you can mention some of the stories if it's okay for you.
Yeah, when I got here on Wednesday last week, I was able to have a dinner with some OGs, some original gangstas. Original gangstas that and there's one right there, Richard freaking Min. No, but really, and it's cool because Richard is here. We've got so much history together, but I really came here, I think it was around 2012 when I came back to Korea and really got involved in the startup scene. And at that time, I was trying to learn. I knew no one in Korea. I think Richard was probably the first person I met. He introduced me to a lot of just up-and-coming, young startup founders that were doing interesting things. And there were 6 of those founders that I got to know really well. Probably more than that, but these 6 I had dinner with on Wednesday night, and all of them have been crazy successful. Taken their companies public, they've exited, they've done crazy, amazing things here in Korea. They are the ones that most of the younger startups now are looking up to and saying, that's why I'm doing this, because I know it's possible, right? And to me, it was deeply emotional, just kind of knowing the story of each one of those entrepreneurs and what they went through to get to where they're at now. And then to hear them tell me the impact I had on them, that I really, you never know if you're having an impact or not, right? But 12 years later, to kind of hear them say, wow, you bringing us to Silicon Valley. I brought one of the teams to Silicon Valley to work with us for a month at Evernote, which was kind of winning a contest, right? And, that made a big impact on that team, and they went on to do amazing thing, and they just sold their company a couple years ago to Kakao Talk, and he's now running Kakao Commerce. So he's a big-time dude. Very, 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 very successful. So it is cool to see that. And that was me just dabbling. I didn't do, what we're doing now. It was very much just kind of helping them, being there as a mentor. They did all the hard work. But it is cool to see those outcomes. And I have some crazy stories that I could tell at some other time.
And I think this deserves a big round of applause, that you helped the Korean startup system like that for so many years already. It's amazing. Yeah. Are there any other questions that you have? I mean, now's the chance. Troy's on stage. It's a very intimate round.
You know what we can do, guys? We love this format that is called Dreams and Obstacles. And the way this works, and maybe we can do a couple rounds, the person kind of, instead of just pitching and saying, this is what I do, I'm so great, the person says, this is what I do, and my dream is this, and my obstacle to this dream is this, I don't know how to do this. And then we all kind of brainstorm and throw ideas to this person of oh, maybe my uncle can take care of that, or have you read this book, or whatever, right? So this usually proves to be super useful, and I think completely changes kind of the dynamic. So let's do a review. What do you guys think?
Hell yeah.
If someone's willing to, yeah, it's really cool.
I think, Florian, you're perfect for this. Sorry, but I'll hand over a mic.
Yeah, guys, the format again, like, let's say it's 2 minutes. You start with like, this is what we do. Then the dream, and then most importantly, the obstacles. Like, this is what's not working. I don't know how to do it. Or like, guys, I need help. This and this and this and that. And then everyone is, welcome to contribute. Okay? Sounds great?
If everything is working.
If everything's working, we should make a statue of you in gold and put it right here.
Hey, not everything's working.
Forget the statue.
Yeah, we'll do our uncomfortable call right now.
All right.
I know you.
So I started a new venture in Korea. The name is Dev Korea, and I'm helping matching companies in Korea with the best English-speaking tech talents from Korea and abroad. And the dream is, well, to promote the Korean tech scene abroad, which I think is lacking for now, and helping people from abroad and English speakers in Korea find the new opportunities in this beautiful country. And I think the problem that I'm facing now is making CEOs and recruiters understand that you don't need to speak natively, you don't need to be a native speaker of Korean to be an engineer. I truly believe that.
That's but yeah,
it's a big one. And also the problem I'm facing is I lack knowledge in terms of the immigration law and so on, and making them understand that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to sponsor a visa for very good talent from abroad to work here. Yeah, I'm stopping because
That's cool. That was well done, by the way.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Timing wise, I mean, yeah, like I was expecting a little bit longer, but yeah, thoughts.
Yeah.
Let's try. Yeah. Who? No, it's fine. I'm happy to walk around. It's not like a huge audience. Who wants to say something?
Boom, boom, boom. One idea can be, whenever we want people to learn something about something, right? And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to educate the world that this is possible. It's really good to lead by example and to tell the stories of how it works. Like the actual stories, not the lessons, and then people, instead of you kind of trying to persuade them, it's really hard to persuade anyone to do anything. Yeah. But when people see success and, they start to copy.
Yeah, correct. Especially if the one who has success have a very big name in the industry here in Korea. If you can have big success with one or two big names here, then the rest will follow. So that's also the strategy I'm trying to...
Yeah, I think that's like a seriously good strategy. Maybe we can make a shout out to the room. Like, is there any company or maybe like a friend you have that works at a larger company that could be a great case study to do with? So let them hire a few foreign developers. Maybe there's someone out there who's interested.
Yeah, I know already. Andre is doing, the company is doing a lot. And Andre as well with his community.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Like, sorry, my English is not so good, but okay. Actually, I'm from Brazil. I work a lot with marketing in Brazil. In Brazil, we work a lot with social media, and I don't know if you start to produce a lot of content. I know that here, the people don't use to use the LinkedIn, but you are trying to talk more abroad with foreign people, And I think to producing more people, using more content marketing, and you can solve some problems. We call we solve pains in Brazil. We call it this way, And with this kind of content, you can see like the market fit, and also you can talk with more people. And I think this could be something that you can use, not be the first thing, but I think can help.
Yeah.
I have an idea. They love hackathons here. So I would get a big company to sponsor a hackathon that mixes some people that you bring over, and they pay for this, right? You get budget from them to bring people over, and then you have like 15 foreigners, 15 locals that kind of mix and do projects together. That could be a good way to kind of just like paint the picture of the magic that can happen with a little bit of a mix of background and ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is something that with other members of the foreign community in the tech field we are thinking to do. But I think related to that, the first problem that I had was branding, I would say, because I'm born and raised in France. I come from Tokyo, Japan, where I built my first company. Then I came here 6 months ago. So when I came, I knew nobody. So I tried to, do this business and contacting people. They were like, who is this Weigugin? It's very difficult to trust people. And there is no problem. I totally understand. But when I started my first tech community and, becoming the biggest international community related to iOS development here in South Korea, people started to take me more seriously. And now this is helping so much now, and everything is growing very fast now because company can put a face and some success into my profile. So they say, okay, you're the guys who do this instead of my name, for example.
Something that popped up into my head actually is a guy I talked to last week. He was looking to organize a hackathon, a Web3 hackathon, and I think you would be actually the perfect partner for it. So I would be happy to connect you. And he would also be interested in sponsoring it with a few companies. So I think, that's actually a good match.
Cool.
First solution.
Yeah, great.
Cool.
How about this format, guys, right?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Even though we know each other, we have never really talked about it. And now
Because we don't talk about our obstacles too much.
Right. Mm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, yeah. Here we are.
I just wanted to follow up on the hackathon comment. My perception of Korea is that they're not too keen on hackathons, but that might be because my Korean level is too low. What's a good way to find out about hackathons, and what % of them are more accessible to people with a lower Korean level?
That's a great question. I'll just tell a quick story about how I did the first hackathon at Evernote. We did. Exactly. So he's exactly right. So I knew no one. Now, I do speak Korean, so that is an advantage. So I don't know that I can address kind of exactly what you're talking about as far as that. But it's gotten a lot better, I'll say. Correct. Yeah. So I cold emailed 4 different schools here, the CS departments, like 4 different randomly chosen kyosunim. What's a kyosunim? Professors. And I said, hey, I'm Troy. Nice to meet you. I want to do a hackathon. I think it'd be cool for your students. And it's just this cold email, right? And one guy came back. We teamed up with Richard and did it with Yonsei. And it was a freaking wild success. And Phil came over, our CEO came over. And by the way, the reason I'm telling this story is when I said back at the headquarters where I was, that was where I was living at the time, is back in Silicon Valley. So I said, hey, I want to do a hackathon. The CTO of Evernote said, no one's going to build on Evernote. Like, there's a time in every company's life, like if you want to build a platform that people build on, when you first release your API, they were kind of sitting back and going, oh, no one's going to build on this. Why would someone, like all this self-doubt, right? And I said, just let me try. And they did. And I ended up pulling it off, and it was like Phil came over and he judged the hackathon, and he was just blown away. Like, it just changed everything. And then Evernote became world famous for doing hackathons every freaking corner of the globe. We did hackathons everywhere. And it was just because we opened up that kind of like mind virus of like, you can't do it, you know, and I broke that, and then everything changed. So I'm sure it's doable. It's just a question of finding the right people with the right kind of motivations to get that done. And I'm sure they exist. It's kind of figuring out, like he was saying, you know, someone that might be able to help him kind of do a hackathon, right? So figuring that out, I think, is the next step. It's always possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's seriously amazing that we found like the first solution, kind of, or at least the idea. Is there anyone else who wants to talk about their pain points? Oh yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask you, do you utilize design thinking workshops in your sessions? Or
yeah, that's a great question. We don't. We don't. Not proper design thinking workshops, I would say. Not like following the full. Yeah, like we're not putting like, you know, stickies on the wall and, you know, doing the full kind of stuff. So I would say no. We have a process that we follow, but it's more kind of like a questioning process, like a series of questions that we go through. But, you know, I would actually see, I've been involved with a lot of design thinking sessions at the companies I've worked at. And I think it's a real helpful exercise to go through, especially as a team. So yeah, that we don't, but I definitely see the value in it. I'm just not a design guy.
Okay, I'm a product manager, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So like we would need like a product manager or someone like that to kind of like help with structuring that.
We just hired Gura to be to do that.
Profit with design thinking, and we work with Stanford University. So, yeah.
Cool. So what is do you have any obstacles that you're facing with your nonprofit?
No, now we have a biotechnology startup. It's another. Also built several businesses, so another one. For now, no, we're happy. We're good.
Good. Very good. Congrats.
I was just thinking about that. Gordon, do you have any problems or things that you maybe thought about starting? Something like a issue that you want to solve that we can all talk about, that you want to share with us? What do you think? Yeah. I sorry for preferring it, but or anyone volunteering before I like squeeze this out of Gordon? No? Okay, yes. Then please go ahead, Gordon.
I think that my kind of thinking right now is very similar to Florian. I think it's also similar to what you guys are also doing, which is that we need to break down the barriers between 외국인 and 한국인. Doesn't need to be a foreigner, Korean or non, in Korea, where doing business, getting jobs. That's where I'm at right now. I'd like to see that.
I remember when I was doing the strategy sessions for the language school, I was kind of inspired by this TED Talk, and they were saying like, well, languages is not the only languages that out there. They were like, mathematics is the language of science, and music is the language of emotions. We all understand it. And, entrepreneurship is the language of doers. And so maybe we don't have to see each other as, we see each other as one, and we operate from there.
Just people are the most important thing, right? And I think the barriers come up when, a visual or a name is put there. But just like, if someone's not Korean and they are speaking Korean without being seen, and then they get treated differently and vice versa, then it just shows that it's not about the actual identity of the person. It's just the person. So.
Beautiful. Is this a beautiful way to end this and go into networking mode? Or actually, maybe we need to run out of here because it's 9. What's the deal, Alex? Do we know how much time we have?
I don't think the security guy is around, so...
let's be mischievous.
But we do have to clean up the chairs, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know the guys, they're pretty chill, so I would say, yeah, we have time. We can just network a little bit, yeah.
So maybe we'll clean up the chairs while we network.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Okay, so guys, thank you so much for being here, for listening, for being present. If you made little pictures or videos, Relevant has an Instagram. It's Relevant Doers, relevant.doers. Tag us. It will be fun to be connected there. In the networking come up, we're always open to, exchange business cards, schedule a call. We'll be doing more events, so come over, hang out. Like, this is all about building a support system. And the most important thing is just to be together as much as we can, right? So.
And scan the QR code for Allo at the back. I think that they have it back there, so.
Yay.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.